Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome back for an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
It's really fucking hot outside.
Good Lord, man.
Jesus H. Tap Dancing Christ.
Yes, it is scorching in the Northeast, and we hope you are staying cool wherever you are listening to us.
I made my breakfast on Sunday on the pavement. That's not an exaggeration.
No, it's fact. I was hoping you put it on TikTok, but I know we didn't get a chance to film it, but good Lord, it is scorching. And we are just going to try giving you something else to bring the heat. That is the ODPH podcast. And we have a lot to discuss in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more. So let us waste no more time, shall we? Hit us up at the social media accounts. You can find all of that and so much more at odphpodcast.com. Join in on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Podchaser, TikTok, Twitch. You name it, we are there. And always remember to use the hashtag ODPHpod. And let us kick off this edition of the podcast talking about the bombshell episode of Loki that just dropped, entitled The Nexus Event, Episode 4. And in case you've been living under a rock, Tom Hiddleston has been making a remarkable series come to life with the show. It has completely replaced Legends of Tomorrow as being the definitive American Doctor Who show, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And we are picking up from the God of Mischief and his exploits from where we saw him in Avengers Endgame. A lot of time jumping is going on, and we're meeting a lot of new characters. It's getting all types of crazy.
Yeah.
And with the cliffhanger episode that we had previously, we weren't sure what to expect with this one. Man, oh man, did we ever jump into something here. So let us waste no more time. We are going to be talking spoilers, and we know that the episode just dropped. That is why we give you fair warning before we start deep diving. We don't want to ruin this for anybody. We are not posting anything on social media for 72 hours. That is the embargo that we have in place because we don't want to ruin anything. But if you've seen the episode, and we're having people hit us up on Twitter at OD Parlay Hour, asking to talk about it. We said, wait till the podcast comes out. We're going to give you our takes, and then we are going to deep dive into it. So we have something to discuss this weekend with you on social media. But until then, we give you fair warning about spoilers. Because when we say we're going to start talking in 3, 2, 1, we are not kidding around, folks. We're going to start deep diving into spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Pad, what did you think?
Thought it was a really good episode, all things considered. A lot of surprises, a lot of shock. Excited to see where this goes because,
This episode definitely picked up the pace that we saw. The brakes pumped last week, which is okay. I mean, for 6 episodes to try getting everything in, there's a lot. And I know that last week's Lamentus episode, there was a lot of story building between Sylvie and Loki. And I understand that, and it made sense for the story. It wasn't a bad episode, but it was something that, for the pace that we've been going at with this show and seeing how Loki has now been taken under the captive of the Time Variance Authority, and he is responsible for investigating a variant which is taking out the TVA, and to see the revelations of it happening, that we know the variant is an extension of him, and we know that not everything is what it seems with the TVA, and that we know that he has found a way to basically hide himself from the timeline, and doing it so cleverly, if I can use that word, that the TVA can't track him down, so that's why they have to get another variant to go get him. Like it's such a wild concept, but they are pulling it off so very well. And with Tom Hiddleston leading this cast, they are really delivering on a classic because when we first heard the show getting announced, we did not know what to expect.
Right. I mean, we knew Hiddleston's performance was going to be great at it because Hiddleston as Loki has always been amazing.
Yes.
There have been some moments where it's not as peak and shiny, but it's still amazing. I just wasn't sure that the rest of the show is going to be as good as Hiddleston can be, but they're meeting Hiddleston and possibly exceeding him a little bit.
They're matching him, and it just goes to show of how dedicated this cast is. I mean, Gugu Mbatha-Raw, who plays Ravonna, has definitely really stepped up the character in this episode alone. We know that Sophie DiMartino, who has been playing Sylvie, the variant, has definitely been matching Tom Hiddleston line for line, every take they're doing. It's a very good back and forth. You're seeing that chemistry on screen. Owen Wilson, who's been playing Mobius, has definitely been playing the interesting role of the time cop per se, and really making this stand out to where he's a good foil to where Loki is. And Wumi Masaku, who's been playing Hunter B-15, definitely had a lot to do with this episode, and we finally get to see a lot more of her character. So with those five just really bouncing off each other with their acting and the energy they're bringing, it has really made for a very unique experience, which I'm loving to see, because where we kick off with this episode, we did the normal Marvel Studio crawl. But did you notice something different this week, Pat?
No, because it was 5:30 in the morning.
They changed the color to green and gold.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so
go back and check that out.
It was a little subtle nod that they decided to do, which I thought was very cool. And then we get caught up to a throwback on Asgard. And we see Ravonna, when she is a soldier, going to get young Sylvie. And we see how that she is taken out of the time stream. We see the TVA soldiers drop their mysterious time bomb
thing,
eraser, or whatever you want to define it as. And she's wiped away from existence in Asgard. And then as we see with this episode, she's brought before the judge and the TVA, and she winds up getting the upper hand on Ravonna and escaping through the time stream.
Yep.
Now, Pat, you got to remember, too, at this age, she's 10.
At least, yeah.
So now we know that she has definitely aged throughout the show. So there has been this weird time growth, I guess you could say, that we've seen Sylvie literally grow up in the time stream.
Right. Well, and we know that time in TVA passes differently than it does in regular time. So for the TVA, it might not be all that long. I'm not quite sure how much time passes in relevance to Earth as it does there. But for her, it's probably been a while, or it feels that way. But to the TVA, it's like, oh, yeah, it's been a week.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy to see. And then we see Ravonna is going to meet the Time Authority. That we're seeing that she's finally going to see the Timekeepers. And then they have the quick little credit episode, and then they go right into the show where we're seeing Mobius is now meeting with Ravonna, and they're kind of celebrating their big win, that they've brought Loki and Sylvie back, because where we last saw them, they were on Lamentus getting ready for the planet to explode, and they're kind of having their one goodbyes, and it's kind of like this emotional scene going back and forth too.
Yeah.
Which is definitely something that I think threw me off guard a little bit.
Only thing missing was Aerosmith singing I Don't Want to Miss a Thing.
Yeah, it was completely set up because now apparently they're setting up this romance between Loki and Sylvie.
Yeah.
Which it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's just it's timelines, it's different.
Multiverse.
Yeah, it is what is, so we're just kind of rolling with it. So once they start having this bond happening between them, a timeline is extended out. So thus they're forming a new timeline. So this is how they get picked up by the TVA, because they've now changed history.
Yep.
So once they are picked up by Mobius and company, they're brought back in, they're processed in booking, because the TVA is just basically one big police station at a time. And we see Ravonna is talking with Mobius and trying to celebrate the big win. But before Mobius can celebrate, he's haunted by the words that Loki has been told by Sylvie. That everybody from the Time Variant Authority is a variant themselves. That they weren't created by the Timekeepers.
Say, unlike the Lego movie, everything is not awesome.
Yes. So thus, when they're having this moment, Mobius really can't celebrate.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's like, he should be happy, he should be popping bottles and woohoo and patting everybody on the back, high fives. But there's just that little bit of nagging in the back of his mind that he just can't sit down about it.
Yeah, because once he's trying to get some information out of Ravonna, she's being very coy about it.
Uncharacteristically coy.
Yes. So he is picking up that something's going on, which I have to applaud Owen Wilson, because he has really been not giving too much away from this character. That we think we understand what Mobius is doing, but yet he'll flip it and do something else. And I think that is a very cool take that he's having with this, because essentially he should just be the good cop that is trying to find the right way.
Pencil pusher, follows the company line, does what he has to, punches in on time, punches out on time, no overtime,
Yeah, but he has definitely thrown a curveball with this because during this conversation, he gets Ravonna distracted enough that he swaps out the time jumper piece. Mm-hmm. So he basically has her badge. I mean, that's kind of the easiest way to describe it.
Yeah.
And then he leaves, and then we kind of get caught up where he's thrown Loki into holding, per se.
Yeah, and we got to know he doesn't do a good job of leaving because Ravonna, he only drinks one. He only takes one drink and only drinks one drink, and he goes to leave. And even Ravonna's like, what, you're only having one? And he goes, oh, yeah, no, I got things to do because, bye.
Yeah, because at this point, he knows something's up and he's trying to act quick on the fly. But Ravonna is very smart.
She ain't no dummy.
Yeah, and she's picking up on this that something's wrong, so she's kind of waiting to see how this plays out. So as Mobius takes off, we find out that Loki's holding is, well...
Interesting.
Yes. That he is stuck in a purgatory moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
And who do we see return to the screen?
Lady Sif.
Yes, Jamie Alexander returns as Lady Sif and is going through a memory where Loki apparently did something to her, and she is not forgiving, cutting her hair.
No.
And we do see that he is on a loop where basically Sif kicks him in the junk.
Yep.
And punches him.
Yep.
And just does it on
I think she slaps him at one point,
too. Like it's a funny moment.
Yeah. and I'm not going to lie. This scene started, I thought, we're going to go through we're going to see a montage of embarrassing moments for him. Because I thought maybe we'd see the scene from Avengers 1 where Hulk tosses him around like a rag doll. Mm-hmm. Which didn't happen. And I'm all right with this, but still funny.
Oh, it's absolutely funny. I mean, it just goes to show about this show really captures the humor when it's needed. Mm-hmm. It captures the drama when it needs. I mean, this is just so well played out. And Hilson is just eating this up, too.
Oh, God,
I think if anybody else was in this role, it just wouldn't come off this well. But Jamie Alexander is definitely excited to be back as Lady Sif, and you can definitely tell she's enjoying her time.
Oh, yeah.
And when this is all going on, we do know that Hunter B-15 is kind of having...
a breakdown.
Second thoughts about what's going on.
Yeah.
And I thought that this was very well played out. Because Wuni Masaku really stepped up this role for this episode. Mm-hmm. That we finally get to see more personality to Hunter B-15 than we've seen the entire series thus far.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to figure Hunter B-15 not exactly high on the corporate ladder, I guess you could say. So she's not exactly, towing the company line and flying the company flag, not all about the TVA and doing what they say to the letter. That she's kind of middle management. She's kind of she's important because she's got people who listen to her, but she doesn't have the higher ups kind of whispering in her ear every 5 seconds. So there is that room for doubt.
Yes, and we do know that she was affected by what happened way back at the hurricane.
Yep.
That happened in episode 2. So as we see that she has this encounter with Mobius, and it's definitely awkward that Hunter knows something's going on too. So there is more smoke to this fire that is the TVA is not what we think it is. So we get a quick flash to Loki in his purgatory, and he does stop Lady Sif just enough to kind of have a moment where he's trying to say, okay, we've been doing this over and over. Something's not right here.
Yeah, it's a trope you see with time travel movies where, you're just repeating the same moment in time, where you inevitably get to the point. It's like, okay, no, don't do that. Come over here. Why? That's why.
Yes. So they do have this very unique exchange. And there was a line that stuck out to me that Sif said to Loki. Mm-hmm. And she said, you are alone and you always will be.
Well, she said that quite a few times.
Right. But it definitely made a point to how many times it was repeated and driven home that was going to be a big factor for this episode.
Well, yeah, and you got to figure that depending on when this takes place, I'm guessing this is probably pre-Avengers. This is probably him kind of joining up with the Chitauri. He's a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
So for Sif to go based off of what she knows back then, he's a dick. He likes to joke around with people, and a lot of people hate it. That you're going to be alone because you're going to push everyone away because everyone hates you. Mm-hmm. Which at that point was true.
Yes.
As Loki, as we eventually see him, probably not.
Well, that's the one point that they're really trying to drive home is that everything with Loki that we know about is not what it seems. And he's really haunted by being alone. And I never picked up on this from the entire times that we've seen him previously in the MCU.
Well, I think it's finally because he's finally getting a mirror held up to him, and he's finally taking 5 seconds to look himself in the mirror. Because as we've seen him, he's never really had that comeuppance and had time to sit there and kind of stew about it.
Yeah.
You think back to the events with Avengers 1, and he gets taken to Asgard, never really got a chance. And then we see him in Thor Dark World, where it's kind of like high octane from the get-go. Like, and just you look at all the events that happened with him, never really had time to sit down and go, yeah, no, I was kind of a bit of a jerk there.
Yeah, it's a unique experience. And like I say, Tom Hiddleston is really breaking down this character that if you really thought you knew Loki beforehand, you definitely don't. But going back to the episode, we do see the Mobius finally pulls him out of this purgatory and is starting to interrogate him again. Because what he wants to find out is, okay, you took off with a variant. Why? What's the big plan? Were you part of this the entire time?
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was a little contradictory.
Sure.
Because if he was really part of it the entire time, why did you go get him to go find the variant?
Yeah, I understand it from his perspective that just he doesn't know the motivation or what's going on. That just for all intents and purposes, it looked like to him that, I took you palling around and then you just up and left with her at the first opportunity you could, almost like you were trying to meet each other.
Yeah, and he's driving home the point that you're in love with your variant.
Yeah, which is weird.
It is weird, but it's comics, so we'll just chalk it up to reasons. So once this point is driven home, Loki is trying to cover up for Sylvie, claiming that he was the one behind everything, that he was the mastermind. Of course, it was my idea the entire time. And Mobius counters, well, we've already killed her.
I'm going to say to which Mobius says, bullshit.
Yeah. And he makes up his own story about Hunter B-15 taking her out.
Yeah.
And that breaks Loki. And then he finally fesses up that, yeah, he does care about her that much. And then it goes back to about the TVA is all based on kidnapped variants. And this is something that still is haunting more and more. That the secret is now getting unraveled. And then Hunter B-15 is also catching wind of this too. That she's having her own breakdown this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she catches up with Sylvie, she winds up sneaking into the cell and getting her out of there.
Yeah.
Which is a very unique experience too. Because when this is all going down, Mobius is still trying to piece all this together. He still has the badge in his hand. And Ravonna is really saying is stepping in because she now figures out something's up.
Oh, yeah, she knew.
Yeah, she knew something was going on because she keeps saying, well, the variants are, the timekeepers want to meet the variants and they want to meet you and really drive this point home.
They love you.
Yeah, and Mobius is saying, well, how come I can't meet the variant? And Ravonna's like, it's for your own safety. You saw what happened to Hunter C-20.
And he thinks she doth protest too much.
Exactly. So when she's making up this story about how she can't meet her, Mobius is just not buying this at all. Because, like I say, at this point, this is where the badge is swapped.
Mm-hmm.
He finally gets to take a look. And when he sees Hunter C-20's debriefing of the incident that happened.
Where she's saying everything Loki has been saying.
Yes. And you see Ravonna turn right to the screen.
Yep.
Mobius now knows what's going on.
She's full of shit.
Oh, yeah. It's absolutely wild. And on the flip, too, you have Hunter B-15 taking Sylvie back to Rocksmart during the hurricane and saying, okay,
start talking.
When you went in my head, you unlocked something.
What did you
do? And then
what did you put in there? And basically Sylvie says, listen, I can't put anything there. I can only affect what's already in there.
Yes.
That I unlocked your memories that were already inside you from your previous life, that you weren't always a TVA cop, that you had a previous life. You probably had a family and friends and whatever else that, they took you out of the timeline and used you for their own purposes.
Yeah. So it's absolutely matching up to the story that Hunter C-20 was saying. Because during her interrogation, she was saying the same thing.
Yeah.
I had a life. I remember being out with friends. What is going on here? And nobody has the answers.
It's almost like WandaVision when the town started waking up towards the end of the season.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Where Vision was starting to finally piece it together, and he was at quote unquote work, and the one guy goes, "Oh, I just want to see my family. Is my family okay? Tell me my family's okay."
Yes. So then we finally get to the big moment where Mobius is trying to grab Loki, and Ravonna is waiting for him. Mm-hmm. And then this is where the scene gets wild.
Does Ravonna and Mobius have a thing for each other?
You would think.
I got that vibe off of them because you look at their interaction when they were in her office, sharing a drink, toasting to their success. And they were a little playful with each other, but it wasn't like over the top and super dramatized. It was just kind of like a fun banter poking back and forth. But then you get to this scene and you see the hurt on her face where she has to basically arrest him, for a lack of a better term. And it just hurts her. You can tell that like she doesn't like doing this.
You can definitely tell that point. I mean, it's one of those moments you'd almost think like you have cops that work together so much.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking Law and Order.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking Benson and Stabler.
Yeah.
It's like I say, it's one of those vibes that they work so well with each other that you kind of think something's going on, but they never really allude to it.
Sure.
So it was kind of that same vibe that I thought with this. But when we see Ravonna having to do what she has to do, and we see the big moment, she winds up taking out Mobius.
Yeah.
He's wiped away from the timeline. Definitely did not see this one coming.
That hurt.
That definitely hurt because that was such a big shock moment as we're seeing that the upper hand is now going back to Ravonna. She's now saying, okay, we're all going to meet the Timekeepers now. And Hunter B is basically marked for death as well, too, for treason. So this is where the episode really takes a curveball and really ramps up the tension.
A lot sooner than I thought it would.
Well, I was thinking they might wait till next week.
I was to say, because this kind of tension is kind of like the episode, like would be the end of the episode that would, and next week would be the season finale. This is the kind of tension I expect for that episode, not this one particular.
Right. But as we go in front of the Timekeepers, I honestly had Wizard of Oz vibes before the big reveal during this.
Yeah.
That something just did not seem right with how they just walk in this room. It's a cloud of smoke. And you see these three figures.
Well, because didn't we catch a glimpse of them towards the beginning of the episode?
We did. They showed...
It was like a real 1 second blink and you miss it.
Right, because they didn't get a close-up of their faces. Because we only know their faces from the statues and such that we see in the promotional pieces. So we haven't really seen who they are. Because that's where everybody thought, oh my God, it's Kang. Kang is one of them.
Yeah.
And it turns out, no. At least not that we know of as right
now. Pay
now.
no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Exactly. That we do see there's three aliens that are talking to Loki and Sylvie.
They look like they're supposed to be floating, but even I'm looking at this going, they're hooked into the wall.
Yeah, it just definitely did not seem right. Like it just was such a tell.
It's like what are they putting in the Kool-Aid here that you're all buying this?
Exactly. And Loki and Sylvie are picking this up too, which I mean Sylvie is still trying to get the one-upsman on Ravonna that I still got past you, and Ravonna's not even selling this. She's so committed to the cause that no matter what you're saying to her, it's just not registering. But then we get Hunter B-15 kicking in the door and freeing Loki and Sylvie up that they can go fight. And then this is where things get crazy because one knife is passed around, and it's a very big knife. Think Crocodile Dundee style.
Yeah.
And we do see there is this very cool action sequence. We do see Ravonna having a one-off against Sylvie.
Yep.
And they're going back and forth about this. And when Sylvie gets the upper hand on Ravonna, I thought she stabbed Ravonna because of how long she was out for the count.
Yeah.
But during this whole melee going on with Ravonna and her elite soldiers, Loki and Sylvie get the upper hand. They wind up cutting off the head of one of the Timekeepers.
Yep.
And lo and behold, it's a robot.
Yep.
So the Wizard of Oz foretale is right there. And they know something's going on. And then we see that Sylvie and Loki are kind of having their moment. They're talking to each other. Loki is about to profess his love. And then what happens, Pat?
Loki disappears.
Yeah. Ravonna takes him off the board.
Yeah. Heart skipped a beat there. That's for sure.
Definitely did not see that coming, let alone episode 4.
I had to be real quiet because, like I said, I watch these episodes before I go to work, so it's 5:30, 6:20 in the morning. So I had to be very careful in this instance not to yell and wake up my neighbors.
Yeah, this was completely out of left field. That all of a sudden Loki is taken off the board. So the whole title character is allegedly gone.
Well, one of the title characters because there's another one in the room.
Yes. So Sylvie winds up taking Ravonna down and is saying, I demand answers. I want to know what's going on here. You know everything.
Well, and Ravonna, Sylvie's got Ravonna dead to rights.
Oh, yeah.
She's on the ground, on her knees, unarmed. There's nobody else in the room that's going to save her. We now know that the Timekeepers are a load of BS. That, they're not going to do anything. They got no real power. So she's got her dead to rights, and Ravonna's looking at her like, go ahead, do it. And I'm not going to lie, part of me wanted her to.
Oh, I was waiting on it to happen.
But Sylvie looks at her and goes, "Nah, I got questions that need answers."
Yeah, it's absolutely wild to see how they ended this, because right from there, the episode ends. We do get an end credits scene, though, and we see Loki, our Loki, wake up in a field-type area.
Yeah, on a beach or something.
Yes. Well, it's one of those areas that I think, when I saw it, I'm like, oh, he's back in Asgard. And then when he wakes up, he sees Loki variants standing over him.
Was there one that was like a crocodile there? Did I see that right?
There might have been. I know that there was one, that the classic Loki with the horns.
That was one Richard E. Grant.
Ooh.
Yeah, because they flashed, once that bonus scene ended, they started showing guest featuring, but they didn't say who. I'm looking at IMDb. Yeah, no, classic Loki was played by Richard E. Grant.
That's very cool. And then we saw Kid Loki.
Yeah, so you had Boastful Loki, Kid Loki, and then, that was the only 3 that I'm seeing listed without digging into the IMDb further.
Yes, so we had the Legion of Lokis.
Which is a terrifying thing to say.
Oh my God. Well, I was expecting Kid Loki to appear at some point.
Oh, sure.
Because of the Young Avengers tie-in that they've been setting up, if you've been really following the shows.
Mm-hmm.
And then the episode ends right there. So a lot to break down. And I know that there was the throwaway line too, which I know we were having some people ask about on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I said I would wait till I talked on the podcast about this. About vampires.
Yeah, I caught that.
Yes. I know that got referenced.
They said that, what did they say? They dealt with Titans,
Kree,
and vampires.
Yes.
Which I know people are probably losing their mind, but they've already announced Morbius is coming. Or not Morbius, Blade. They're doing a Blade movie, so planting early seeds for Blade.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
That's how I took it.
I just thought, well, if you're talking about the Kree, you might be trying to talk about Eternals and mixing them in a little bit.
Titans makes sense because Thanos.
Yeah, that's, as I said, that's an Eternals Easter egg right there.
Yep.
The vampires thing is a very interesting one, though, too, because we haven't heard anything about Blade. And
right.
I know it's not connecting to Morbius.
Right.
But I definitely wanted to address it, at least, though, because this show is definitely being smart about its Easter eggs and the ramifications it's having. Which, for 2 more episodes left, be honest, I got no idea what to expect.
No, neither do I. And it'll be very interesting to see where this goes and where it ends, because as the timeline goes, Loki's technically dead. So where this goes, especially now we have the reveal of who the hell is the man or woman or person behind the curtain controlling the TVA, the timekeepers. Who the hell is that person? Because I'm very interested to see who that is. Watch it be Odin just having fun.
I do have my theories about this, and I know it's a little early to be guessing, but I think it's Immortus, who's connected to Kang.
Maybe.
We do know that there is that connection with Ravonna, too, if you follow the comics. I think it's going to be revealed that he is going to be the one that's in charge.
Could be.
And I think that would make a lot of sense, because we all know the roads are leading to Kang the Conqueror at some point.
Could be something that leads into Thor
Love and Thunder.
It could be something that leads into Thor Love and Thunder.
Well, if you notice the small Easter egg that got put out this past week, the end scene of WandaVision was touched up, allegedly. Which is just the shadow figure of Doctor Strange flying in.
It's not.
Yeah, like I was saying, if they really wanted to tie it into it.
It's not. It's just they were editing some stuff and they forgot to take care of something and it slipped through.
Yeah, but if they still wanted to kind of spin it to say it's tied into Loki's resetting the timeline, sure.
Listen, it very well could turn into them retconning it and saying it's Doctor Strange or Vision or something. Mm-hmm. Was that their intention?
Oh, no, not at first. But
no,
I think
I'm going to take that whole sequence like they took the Peter Parker, Iron Man 2 thing. That kid, when they filmed that movie, was not Peter Parker. They happened to look at the situation and go, hey, that's a really good in for us to introduce Peter Parker, and let's just retcon it that way.
Yeah. I mean, however they want to spin it, I think it would be a cool nod to say, oh, yeah, we did it, to really show how the timeline is getting reset.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying we have to really sell it on it.
I don't think it's...
But I'm going to go with it.
I don't think it's them adding that in, like, ooh, because if they were going to do something like that, they would have done it then. They wouldn't have added it in a month, 2 months, whatever it's been since that episode aired. You would have done that for the shock value alone right then and there. That you wouldn't have added it in almost, in July.
Unless they really wanted to sell this show. I mean, no, like, I understand your point. I'm not saying you're wrong about this, but I'm saying I could also see Marvel saying, like, when they first filmed it, okay, put it in and we'll just hold off on it.
Yeah.
Just to say, look at what happens with the timeline. Ba-dum-bum.
Yeah.
So it quite possibly could be. But they did tease a lot. Like I said, Eternals was teased. The Vampires line was interesting.
I mean, it's just planting seeds for Blade, because had the Blade movie not been announced already, I'd be like, ooh, maybe they're planting some seeds for that. But we know it's coming, so plant seeds now.
Yeah, which is smart, because we don't have a timetable for Blade. We don't need one at this moment. We have enough content that is coming that the next big quote-unquote reveal we'll get arguably will be at San Diego Comic-Con virtual.
Probably.
And it will probably be Fantastic Four casting. Would be my guess.
I'd imagine.
I'm saying that would be the logical.
And if it's not like the whole thing, maybe like Reed and Sue.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense.
You know they'd want to do the full 4 plus probably Doctor Doom, but I can see them just doing maybe 2 or 3.
Oh, if they did the first 2, I would definitely say that would be more than logical.
Because I realize the likely odds is probably all 4. But I would not fault them if they say, hey, we're really taking our time with this. Here's the first 2. We're still working on the other 2.
It could be. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they do it, because I know it had the summer be live in person San Diego Comic-Con. Mm-hmm. I think we would have got it. I definitely.
Oh, absolutely.
I think they want that Hall H moment. Now, do I think they're going to hold off on it? Maybe.
Could be.
I mean, it just depends on how Kevin Feige and company want to do things. But I think that we'll have to kind of see how this is all going to spin out, because what this show is doing is setting up a lot of Easter eggs. Mm-hmm. I'm not doubting that we might get a Fantastic Four Easter egg thrown in.
Yeah,
just a quick throwaway line.
Maybe.
Something to melt the internet down for about a day and a half, and then we'll go back to normal. But this show is setting up a lot with very little, too, if you think about it. So that being said, Pad, overall thoughts on the episode, where we think we're going?
Well, I have no idea where we're going. Like, I, at the start, had no idea where we're going. I still don't have any idea where we're going, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I just don't know where the hell this is going to go. But the episode was really great. Love the plot twists and everything, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here.
This episode delivered on a lot, in a hurry, too, because the first half of the episode didn't really push the gas pedal. But they did kick it into high gear late, though. And like I said, we finally get to see some standout moments from Hunter B-15, Ravonna. So we started getting more and more involved in the mythos of the TVA. And to see the shock value of Loki getting taken off the board, and Mobius too, which I'm still going to go with my theory. He is a Thor variant. Don't ask me how, don't ask me why. I'm going to just say that he is, because of how loyal he is to Loki. There's nobody else that's that loyal to Loki other than Thor. That is where my theory is for that. But we still have seen that Loki can survive getting erased from the timeline. Could Mobius as well? We don't know. And then to see the legion of Lokis at the end of the episode, let's get weird, folks. Mm-hmm. Because that is the easiest way to describe this show, other than saying it's American Doctor Who. And other than saying it's also been fantastic. 4 episodes down, a lot to digest. So definitely hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. Spoiler free until Friday. We don't want to ruin it for anybody else, and then we'll go deep dive in with everybody about this. What is your thoughts about the Nexus event, episode 4 of Loki on Disney+. Let's talk, shall we? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Looking for a podcast all about nerddom?
Want a podcast with an emphasis on representation?
The Nerd Alternative is the podcast for you. Join me, Ram.
Me, Hassan.
And me, Levi.
3 black British nerds tackling the pop culture we love and sharing why we love them. The Nerd Alternative, a sweet melting pot of all things nerdy.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and shockingly enough, there is no Superman and Lois to talk about this week.
I know. Bummer.
It's depressing. So I thought for this segment, we'll take a quick lap around the DC universe on the CW.
Yeah.
Now, we haven't kind of talked about the other shows a lot in recent weeks. Because basically
there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, and plus, I'll be honest, Legends of Tomorrow is not really working for me. Mm-hmm. This season, since they've returned, it's been over the top, campy.
Yeah.
That now, and I guess we'll throw off this disclaimer, we will be talking spoilers about these shows.
Yeah.
So we're going to give you fair warning about this. Legends got really weird.
Yeah.
And not weird in the good sense.
Yeah.
it was just being so over the top now with aliens and how Sarah was abducted. And I mean, I'm a huge Sarah Lance fan. I mean, like I said, Katie Lotz has been crushing it ever since she took over the lead role on this show. But now it's like we've gone into such a weird level of like consistent, let's really make this over the top.
Yeah.
That is just not connecting. And now it's been revealed that she's basically a hybrid clone, that her body was killed off.
Yeah.
And now it's like she's back leading the team, but it's not the same. And it's
like Mass Effect 1 and then Mass Effect 2.
Yeah, it's been so all over the place that I'm just not getting into it like I used to.
I'll be honest, I watched the first episode. I haven't watched another one since. And I think part of that might be because of Mick Rory leaving.
Well, we knew the problems that Mick was having with the show,
right?
So Heatwave was definitely
right.
Not.
So I think part of it is just Heatwave leaving, and just kind of losing interest there. But I also think it's just I watched the first episode and it just didn't do anything for me. That like I enjoyed last season. It wasn't great. It wasn't anything that like I'll go out of my way to rewatch anytime soon. But I enjoyed it because one of my favorite subjects in school when I was growing up and even into college was history. I love a history class. I'm one of the weird kids who like teacher'd roll in the TV with the VCR, pop in a video for you to watch, and everyone's going, and I'm going, sweet, let's watch this.
Yeah.
I'll still watch history documentaries even now. So like last season kept my interest because it's all when are we going to pop up and what famous person from history are we going to pull out of time? Now, like they showed up into the Russian Revolution and pulled out, what was it? Oh God, what's his name? Rasputin. When they pulled out Rasputin, I was like, oh shit. Like as soon as they said Russia 1917, I went, oh fuck, I know where we're going. So that kept my interest, and then we have the all-time classic, Cisco thong song scene.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I say, when they really nail it, it's very funny and very entertaining.
Yeah. But I mean, for this first episode, I watched it. It didn't do anything for me and I haven't watched it since. And I always kind of figured, all right, if I get the chance, I'll go back to it. I just never have. And nothing has really jumped out online where it's like, oh, hey, you got to see this sequence or this scene or this story or this episode was really good. That it's like, I'll be honest, it's not even making waves for me to really want to go check out.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried getting back into it a little bit. But anytime we start talking clones, I immediately start tuning out. If you know me well.
Because you love the Clone Saga.
You mentioned the Clone Saga and online, and I have very choice things to say about that. And trust me, we're going to get into that later in the show. But to see it being another clone on the show, I mean, we've already had that with Ava and her history and how that's a setup. It's just like, okay, why are we doing this again with Sarah? And that's one of your strongest characters, if not your strongest character. I know they've been kind of dancing around with Mick Rory on the show, and we did cover that way back before the season began, that there's been a little drama there.
Yeah.
So it just hasn't really been clicking no matter what. And I know it just kind of feels like they're trying to be too overly funny instead of being a good balance of humor and drama.
Yeah.
In my opinion. So, like I say.
Like if I want to watch an hour-long comedy, I'll watch 2 episodes of Family Guy back-to-back or American Dad back-to-back.
Yeah.
I like comedy in my superhero shows, but just not front to back.
Yeah, like it's not supposed to be as funny as they're trying to make it.
Yeah.
And that's where it's not connecting. So I'm still hoping that it'll rebound by the end of the season, but who knows? So I guess if I have to give it my grade, we'll throw it back to the report card days. I'm going to give it a C-.
Okay.
I think it's a little below average, but I think that they do have a talented enough cast. They should be able to do some more with it, in my opinion. But I've also said a long time on this show, they got to switch up the lineup. Like I don't want to see actors get fired, but they need to really switch up the roster here. Like I think if they added Black Lightning on the show, I think that would have been great. I know that they had Kid Flash on for a quick second.
Right.
No pun intended. But they have enough people in the DC universe they could bring in to really throw some new energy on this show.
Right.
That I don't think they're doing it, and they got really away from what made this show stand out at the beginning, where they were going back and fixing the time variance and also kind of forging their own paths.
Right.
I mean, now it's just kind of like, okay, we're dealing with aliens again, and now it's all over the place, and X, Y, and Z, and now we've got multiple clones going on, and I mean, Sarah might not be the only one. Mick might be one too. It's just so confusing to watch that I'm just hoping it rebounds before it's all said and done. So let's go to the longest show on the CW currently, and that would be The Flash.
Yeah.
So, Pat, I know you've been watching each week.
Yep.
What is your takes for The Flash?
It's been okay. Hasn't been a home run every week. Not even really a triple. It's been okay. This past week was really good. And I enjoyed that far more than the last couple of weeks. So it's been kind of hit or miss, but, I'm still enjoying it. It feels like it's reaching its end, though.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. It's just one of the biggest criticisms I have of The Flash is The Flash has one of the best rogues galleries in all of comics, behind Batman and Spider-Man. It is a solid number 3, and there's no shame in saying that. You can go back and forth with the other two and do that. But for what they've been doing with the show, though, I feel like they haven't tapped into the good potential of it. And I know that the cast is just so big on Team Flash that it just doesn't seem like everybody gets their due.
No.
And I think that hurts in the long run for this show.
It's like as Flash, there's like 15 people on the main cast.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Well, it's something crazy, but when you think about everybody that's on Team Flash, and yet they're adding more people. Like they've had Allegra join the team.
Yeah.
Her cousin is now kind of sort of with the team Ultraviolet there.
Yep.
So that's also 2 other heroes. We have Caitlin, who's also split into Killer Frost. So that's another
2.
Yeah. Cisco is leaving, but then we have Chester replacing him.
Yep.
And we still have Barry with Iris, and it's just so much going on that it just doesn't feel like everybody's getting their fair shake, in my opinion. And I think that they haven't had a real strong lead-in coming back from the Mirrorverse and whatever was going on there. Because, I'm sorry, like that was not the best way to wrap a season up.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm sorry, the Black Hole organization just wasn't connecting because I don't know if it's just there wasn't enough time to really establish who they were. And I understand with COVID. I'm not faulting them because, hey, stuff was taking out, time frames and such. I get that. But I'm just saying for being a strong antagonist, for being a main villain,
right,
it just didn't connect. That I think that when we've seen this show really click on all gears. We've had Thawne.
Yeah.
We've had Zoom.
Yeah.
Where else do we go from here? I mean, you've had Captain Cold, but obviously you haven't been able to have him for a whole season.
Right.
And I think that hurts when you could have done the Rogues Gallery.
Right, and the actor isn't playing him anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that does hurt, and then you either have to decide if you want to go recast or what you want to do. But for where they're starting to pick up some steam, and I will admit they have gotten a little better since now they got focused on Godspeed, who is one of the more recent Flash rogues that actually is sticking around and doing something.
Right.
So I'm okay with that. And to see with this episode, too, it seems like they're trying to go back and tie in more of the Flash family from the future coming back here. Because where this episode kicks off for this past week, titled Enemy of the Gates, we do see that Barry is thinking about his daughter, Nora, who is obviously lost in the time stream, and then he's focusing the entire episode about figuring out if Iris is actually pregnant or not. So it really takes him out of the equation for the day, and the rest of the episode is dominated by Killer Frost and trying to figure out, okay, what's going on with her, and Chillblaine, I believe is the character's name.
I think so, yeah.
That there's something there, and she's trying to figure that out, while Godspeed is now trying to attack Barry. So they do switch it back to Godspeed is really trying to go at the Flash and go at Team Flash. And I think it's a very cool thing to see that finally we get a real threat to the team, because we haven't had this for a little while.
No.
I'm sorry. I'm just going to be honest about it. And when we see that Godspeed is now multi-cloning himself.
There's 5 of them.
Yeah. Okay. Yet again, I say, the clones. Is it really connecting with you, Pad?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of suspending disbelief. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of did too, and I was like, okay, well, he's cloning himself.
It makes more sense to have more than one than rather just have the one again, because it's like, hey, I already beat you, and I'm already faster than you, so why are we doing this? So it ratchets up the difficulty and the intrigue.
Yeah, I mean, it does help a little bit, but I think when you start having teams of clones, it's kind
of
like...
yeah, but I mean, if he just has one show up again, it's going to turn into like a Saturday morning cartoon too much, where it's like, I got away again.
Well, I could see that point, too. It's just, I know when they're trying to really mix things up and have them show up as like, okay, when we start having clones, like I say, my skin starts crawling a little bit, just because I'm like, ugh, I don't dig it. But I don't mind the villain of Godspeed, because like I say, I think he's one of the more recent additions to the Rogues Gallery I know he is from the most recent comic run, but he's one that really stands out. Like, it's not just going to be one that we forget. And I could definitely see this one having a long run in the comics, obviously with the future coming down the road. So I'm all right with this. And to see how he's going about attacking Team Flash, I thought was cool. They did have this big battle at Star Labs where Godspeed is coming in. But the one thing that really just confused me a little bit is, okay, we have the 6 bad clones Godspeeds. Then all of a sudden are facing off against 6 good clones of Godspeed later in the episode. And it kind of jumps around from there. It was like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I understand it's dealing with the timeline, and I know that we're going to have to wait a little bit to figure out, but still confusing.
Yeah.
So I really didn't have this big connection going on with this episode as I probably would have. Just because I was like, wait, we're just dealing with, okay, Godspeed's fighting Godspeed's. Okay, what is happening here? And then during the same time, we're focusing a lot on Killer Frost and Caitlin, who's trying to save Ultraviolet, and it's getting kind of weird there. So we do end up, though, with a very solid cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Not that Iris is not pregnant yet, but Pad, what is the big cliffhanger?
Joe's in a car and it explodes.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how he survives.
Reasons.
Well, reasons, but I also feel that
They're going to take a page out of Fast and Furious book.
Oh, God. We'll get into that a little bit. I do feel, though, I mean, it was a solid cliffhanger. I don't know how they're going to explain it unless this is the episode that introduces Impulse.
Maybe.
That you're going to have a speedster come in and make the save.
Probably.
Because it just didn't happen. But I will say, for what they had, the little side story they have with Joe, which I'll admit I'm still a little lost on because he hasn't had a lot of time to really explain it.
Yeah.
I think that it'll be a good payoff when we get it, because obviously they're not killing off Joe just yet. But with still a couple more episodes in before they have their season finale.
Oh, and that tease next week, though.
Yes. Well, why don't you break that down for us?
David
Bud?
Ramsey showing up. Yo, let's go.
He had better be wearing the ring, man. That's all I'm going to say.
There was a green light in the episode.
I just hope it's not a tease, because I did see him in the Spartan uniform, and I'm like, listen, just make him Green Lantern in this universe already. Like, stop dragging us out about this. Like, make him Green Lantern. Like I said, stop dragging the feet. I'm going to get wound up about this. But for this episode, I'll give it another C.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was average. I thought it was okay.
It's better than the last few.
It's been better than the last few, so I will say, okay, I'm definitely into that. But what I think was the show that stood out this week was the Batwoman season finale.
Okay.
Now, we have not talked a lot about Batwoman, but I've been really trying to hammer through and catch back up on this. And I will say, for a season finale, this hit the marks. Was completely happy with it. Had a lot of good stuff to really take home from this. And we do know that obviously with this season, there was the controversy with Ruby Rose leaving the show.
Right.
And we did have a new Batwoman take over. Javissa Leslie, who played a brand new character, Ryan Wilder, who was just introduced in the comics. And this was her year 1 in getting thrown into this universe. And where we take off for the season finale, entitled Power, episode 18, we do see an old Batman villain is front and center, Black Mask.
Oh.
And what he's been doing is more or less trying to cause the purge and making himself the hero.
Oh, boy.
It's a really kind of crazy concept, because what he's been doing is experimenting a little bit about different elements in the Bat universe. Like, he's somehow got himself a hold of Bane's venom and has been mixing it in with something else. So he's kind of been touching upon that a little as well. Plus, he also has a brainwashed Kate Kane, who is back on the show, played by Wallace Day, and is working with him to basically set up his vision of Gotham, which he's saying he's now giving people the Black Masks to run around, and he'll be the one that takes Black Mask out as his human identity. So it does play off in the overtones of Black Mask because, well, let's just face it, in the comics, he's very egotistical of himself. And it does play into this whole universe that we're in, and we do see that Team Batwoman is definitely in dire straits. We do see that Luke Fox, who's played by Cameron Johnson, is finding his father's storage area. And in this area is a bat suit that, if you know the comics, you know is Batwing. So we do see that we finally get Batwing in this universe, which I marked out for. Like I said, previous episodes I've talked about the suit. I thought it looked on point. I thought it looked straight out of the comics.
Okay.
This episode, it definitely did the same thing. So
Okay.
I was all in on this. And another factor that I really was all in about is how they've been having Black Mask acquire, in his own way, the, I want to say, certain relics of the Batman's Rogues Gallery.
Well, I mean, Batman did just casually have him singing and sitting in the Batcave.
Yes, because I know that he's had Kate Kane acquire some.
Sure.
So I know that she's had her connection with it as well. And I mean, obviously, this has been a deep-rooted plan the entire season going on. And
by acquire them, you mean break into the Batcave.
yes, well, I mean, with Kate Kane being the one who have access into it, it makes the most sense because that's the only way that I can figure that Black Mask got his hands on these items. And like I said, Peter Albridge, who played Black Mask on this show, definitely didn't have a problem with him this go-around. Like I said, I thought it was just an interesting play that we see Kate Kane taking these items. And is now, well, like, okay, we're going to mess around with Venom, which is never good. And I'm not talking about Eddie Brock, folks. I'm talking about what makes Bane Bane. And they do wind up testing this out on somebody who flatlines. And this comes back later in the show.
Okay.
Because when Black Mask is doing this, and he is, like I said, he's covering up a lot that Kate Kane has these items with her, too, because escaping, because she's brainwashed. She doesn't have her memories. This is how they wrote her off the show. When they start having this go-around where Black Mask is getting finally confronted by Ryan Wilder, who's not Batwoman just yet. She's like the entire beginning of the episode, she's having like a question of confidence because Black Mask has won. She hasn't. And she has to work with Alice, who is Kate Kane's sister, who's playing, every time I've caught this show, has been played exceptionally well by Rachel Skarsten.
Okay.
And she does play that Joker kind of role in this.
Yeah.
But they do have this kind of friend of my friend is my enemy, or enemy of my enemy is my friend vibe going on.
Yep.
So they do wind up going to Channel 64 and confronting where Black Mask has taken over all the media and is running his message about basically unleashing the purge. So during this back and forth, they see Kate Kane is escaping with those items. And there is that, like I said, back and forth going on. Ryan is going after Kate. And we do see Alice is now having this one-upsman against the Black Mask. And lo and behold, she does have a certain item that is a flower. 3 guesses who that belongs to.
Joker?
Uh-huh. Hits him right in the face with the acid.
Yeah, say classic.
Yes. Which she winds up defeating him. And then she's starting to go after Kate because what they're saying is they start figuring out that this other antidote that they find near where they were experimenting on the Venom victim, there is something that will release their memories and kind of reset what happens to them. So they're thinking, okay, well, if we can get our hands on this, then we might be able to save Kate. Because at the end of the day, it's still Kate's sister. So like I said, they play this back and forth the entire time of the show. And it's one strong suit when they have Kate Kane in the lead, but Ryan Wilder's character definitely steps up to the role. And even when she's having that question of faith, she doesn't lose it. And she is inspired when she starts seeing that the voice of Vesper Fairchild comes over the airwaves and is talking about how the Batman or the Batwoman is a symbol to the people of Gotham. So you know how we always kind of touch upon this in the comics. When you see the bat signal go up in the air.
Yeah.
And you see that for the people of Gotham, it's not a sign saying Batman's coming to help. It's the sign of hope.
No, yeah. I mean, they've touched on this, I know, in the movies. You know, Michael Caine and some of his lines in the Nolan trilogy come to mind.
Yeah, and they really play this point up very well on the show, too, because where Ryan Wilder is having her second guesses. Okay, she can't beat Kate Kane. She's not Batwoman.
Right.
It's not there. All hope is lost. She starts hearing this voice on the radio, and it's Vesper, who has been kind of the overall narrator of the series. And she's reading about the letter about how it's inspiring the people of Gotham. Say, if you really are wanting to change and you don't want Black Mask to win, put the bat symbol on your windows and show this. And really sell the point home of why the city needs Batwoman. Because they all know Batman's gone. The Bruce Wayne has been gone for years. Haven't found out yet. We will eventually. But we do see that Ryan starts leaving the studio, and she's looking up in the windows. And where they were having black masks for everybody that was taking part in the purge, they're spray painting, or they're painting the Batman logo on them. And it's the bat is on the mask in the windows. And Ryan is seeing this, and she's knowing that this is what she is meant to be. This is what she means to the city. So this is now where you can kind of start seeing her turn her story around and saying, I'm going to go and I'm going to finish this job and I'm going to do this. Meanwhile, we do get a quick flash to Mary Hamilton, who's played by Nicole Kang on the show, who's one of the team members.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the one that figures out about the snake bite. So as she is trying to escape with this information, she gets confronted by the victim who OD'd on the venom,
Oh, boy.
but is back to life now.
Because, of course.
And, of course, is hulked out like he's Bane. He's not Bane on the show. I want to clarify this. And as they're having this fight up the staircase, lo and behold, she gets thrown off the roof. Who catches her? Batwing in full armor. And it's a very cool moment. It's one of those, he didn't come in very, very smooth.
Yeah.
Like the jetpack gives out a little bit, but he does wind up saving her from this assailant. And it's now he's accepted the role that he's going to be Batwing. So this will be something cool to move forward to. They didn't spend a lot of time on this, and I'm okay with it because we have all next season to get into about Batwing. But that cuts off their story. So then we now see where the story really kind of takes hold, that Ryan gets in her Batmobile because she does have a car. And she does drive after Kate. They do get to this battle on the bridge. And during this time, too, Alice shows up and sprays the antidote into Kate, and they both fall into the river. So Alice and Kate are off the board. Like, they're underwater, so nobody knows where they are. They do kind of have these last moments in life.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing Alice, like, basically relive her last moment. And you're seeing that Kate finally comes into her own as well. Ryan gets them out of the water. They have to perform mouth-to-mouth on Kate. And just as they save her, Kate remembers who she is. But the Gotham PD shows up and arrests Alice. Takes her away. So then we get the final moments of the show, which, like I said, this has been building up very, very well, and it's balanced off so good, too, that the pacing was fine on this. And they definitely tied in everything and made sense. We knew a little bit about the characters' backstories. We heard Vesper inspire the city of Gotham. We get to the end, though, and we do see that Kate has now announced her plans that she's going to go look for Bruce, that he needs to atone for basically leaving the city and find out really what happened. So the mantle has now been officially passed to Ryan. Then we also find out that Ryan goes to Arkham to see Alice, where we do know that Black Mask is next there, and he's mumbling a name. Where this is going to play out, don't know. And then during this moment, too, Alice kind of has this one-upsmanship where is saying, well, you know, Kate is saved, and, you know, I do know something about you, too. Your biological mom never died, which has been something that's been a looming factor this entire season. So Ryan now knows her mother is living.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yes, so it'll be another drama effect, too. And then to finish off the episode, though, Pat, you remember how I said there was missing bat artifacts?
Yes.
Oh, they wash up in the river.
Oh.
And we do see Mad Hatter's hat.
Okay.
We do see Penguin's umbrella.
Okay.
And then we start seeing a vine grow.
Oh, boy.
And it's growing very, very rapidly.
Oh, boy.
Fade to black.
Nice.
I have to give this episode a B+. That for being somebody that jumped into the show a little late, but definitely sped through to catch up, I thought this really captured the vibe that you want to see of the Cape Crusader. Javissa Leslie played exceptional in this role. And for being this her year one, I thought they capped it off nicely. They set up enough stuff for next season that now that she has a partner in Luke Fox with Batwing, I think that it's not going to go the full Arrow route, which I'm hoping it doesn't. Just keep those two together. You know, you can have Mary still balance them out, and that be your 3 team right there. But I think they have enough that they can start the future on a good foot. Alice's story arc, I believe, is done. I believe she's not returning to the show.
Sure.
And I know that Kate...
2 seasons, that's a long arc.
It's a long arc, but for what they did, too, and especially it's a transition period, too, because Alice has always been tied with Kate Kane. Well, obviously, Kate Kane is not returning as of yet, but Alice is so tied with her, it would kind of make an odd sense to have her be the recurring villain for the show.
Right.
So they're going to start fresh with her, and like I said, I believe that she is not returning to the show. I do know that Doug Ray Scott, who played Kate's father, Jacob Kane, is not coming back.
Right.
They wrote him off on the show. The Crows, the security force that he was in charge of, is been disbanded and discarded. So it's a clean slate for Ryan Wilder's character. I'm all in on this. I thought they did a really good job about setting up for the future, that I'm now interested to see how they play this off. Because like I said, we've had certain characters of the Batverse show up. Hush has made an appearance. We have seen Black Mask now. I mean, to do Poison Ivy, which they've just given that away, I think is going to be a cool play to see. And I think can only help this show grow. And for a universe that could desperately use it, I think this is strong because we're now in that transition phase. Arrow is no longer on the air. Flash is in a state of flux, in my opinion. Legends is Legends. Give take. Black Lightning was unfortunately canceled. We have Superman and Lois, which has been on point. And if you've been a long-time listener to this podcast, you know how much we love that show. But Batwoman has definitely carved her own niche in here. I'm interested to see where they go for next season. And they left me on a very good high note to say the future is very bright for this show. I'm excited to see where Leslie runs with his character. And I really want to see something different that we don't see in the comics. Because to copy what Kate Kane does and have it be Ryan Wilder, I don't think would connect. I want to see Ryan Wilder carve her own path. And I think that they're definitely going to do that next season. So definitely go check that out. But that being said, final thoughts on the DC Arrowverse as you see it, Pat?
Well, some good stuff. A lot of room for improvement, and I hope they do so.
Yeah, definitely so. Like I said, Superman and Lois has been knocking it out of the park. We do know Stargirl is returning in August, so that'll be a definite help for this CW network. So I'm definitely excited to see where that comes back. And like I said, to see the new adventures and escapades of Ryan Wilder as Batwoman, I'm excited for it. Like, let's do something different than the comics, and let's have her carve her own path. Let's go. Can't wait to check on what CW has lined up going into the fall. But we gave you our takes, but let's hear yours. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts about the current state of the DC CW universe? What shows do you like? What shows do you not? And why? Let's have that discussion, shall we? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Do you love Marvel but are tired of hearing Cheeto-stained white guys talk about it?
Are you hoping to see the X-Men and Avengers face off?
Do you secretly want to be Jessica Jones or Daisy Johnson?
Or do you want to be with Valkyrie?
If so, you've found your new favorite podcast. We're your hosts, Madam Chris
and Madam Amy, and we are here to give you the commentary you want.
Marvel, minus the mansplaining.
Find us wherever you get your podcasts and visit us at themarvelousmadams.com.
Madams assemble.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pat, what you got for those one-shots?
Got to talk a couple things. The first of which is a bit of an update on the Amazon Lord of the Rings series. And one of the actors in the show saying not really sure when it's going to finish filming. So, of course, a lot of people might know that Lord of the Rings, the film series, filmed in a rapid 438 days. That's because they filmed them all right in a row. They didn't futz around or mess around. They just boop, done, and they came back for some reshoots and some pickup shots they needed, but the principal photography was all done right in a row. But this one certainly seems to be taking its time because it faced the production of the Amazon series, faced delays, of course, due to the pandemic 15 months ago. They're still underway on production for the first season of the series for Amazon, with seemingly no end in sight. Of course, this is according to actor Benjamin Walker, who you might know from the stage musical Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson, if you are a fan of the fine arts, or if you are familiar with him, might be familiar with him from 2012's Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Okay.
He did an interview with Collider promoting the new Netflix movie, The Ice Road, which I might actually check out because it's got Liam Neeson in it, and they're trying to survive on an ice road. It looks kind of interesting. Looks like a kind of certain movie we're going to talk about in a little bit, where you don't watch for the plot, you just kind of watch for what's going to happen. But he said, quote, "It's a bit nebulous at this point. We've been here a long time, and they'll let us go when they're done with us," close quote. So it sounds like they're taking their time with it, which I'm all right with.
Yeah, be smart about it.
You know, there's a lot to the Tolkien universe and the Lord of the Rings universe than is just in the movies. There's plenty of YouTube channels out there that kind of delve into the lore and the backstory and the this and the that it's kind of overwhelming at times. So if they're taking their time with it, I'm okay with that. That means they want to get it right. They want to get everything perfect, which I'm all right with. And plus, the budget of this show is supposedly as high as $1 billion.
Yeah.
Which is a lot, which means there's going to be a lot involved with the show. It's already been greenlit for a second season, which I didn't know, but hey, give me more. So I'm definitely excited to see where they go with this. And like I say, take all the time you need. I am in no rush.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing. With that kind of fan base, you don't want to go rush into anything. Like,
No.
if you do that, it's not gonna make a ton of sense.
Uh-huh. Yep. And then moving on to some casting news. We got a bit of casting for the upcoming Transformers Rise of the Beasts movie that I talked about last week. When we found out who's going to be playing Optimus Primal, the descendant of Optimus Prime in the Beast Wars franchise. No, it's not Gary Chalk, who voiced him for every episode of Beast Wars and then Beast Machines, but we don't talk about that because that show's not good. It is going to be none other than some dude named Ron Perlman.
Ooh, okay.
Never heard of him. A bit of a newcomer to Hollywood. No, in all seriousness, listen, if it couldn't be Gary Chalk, who is fantastic as the role and obviously been the only person to play the role to my knowledge, I'm all right with Ron Perlman. Ron Perlman's real good.
Ron Perlman's awesome. Give it to me.
Cannot go wrong with Ron Perlman. And then lastly, before I get to my comics picks, this one got me super excited. We might be getting an animated sequel for Smallville. Now, there is at least 2 quote-unquote seasons, I guess you could say, that they did in the comics once the show's run was over, that they did keep canon for the crossover on the Infinite Crisis on Infinite Earths. They did reference that because in this show, spoiler alert, they sold the farm, and then Clark moved to Metropolis, and his mother went off other places. But in the comics, they bought it back, so hence why they kept that canon in the show. So interesting to see how they go with this. But this is according to, none other than Tom Welling himself.
Oh, okay.
So this was in a Cameo post he made to somebody, and for those of you who aren't familiar with Cameo, various folks, I guess you could say, celebrities, athletes, personalities, everyone from like a Tom Bergeron on American television to Mariano Rivera from the New York Yankees. There's a bunch of famous people on Cameo that you can go pay money and they will record a message for you. Now, you can do it as a birthday gift to somebody. If they're a big fan of somebody, you can do it as a congratulations or, whatever you want to do. They will do it for you and they will get it to you. Somebody, got a cameo from Tom Welling, and in said cameo, he disclosed the fact that, quote, Michael Rosenbaum and I are actually working on an animated series to bring those characters back, those characters being the Smallville characters, back to life and use as many of the original cast members as possible. Don't tell anybody, though. It's a secret. We're still working on it, close quote. So obviously it didn't stay secret, and it made its way onto Twitter. And Welling has hinted at this, I guess, a couple of times over the years, but he hasn't provided details. So, but it seems like we might be seeing Smallville return again, and they're going to try and bring back as many actors as they can. Although there's one, if you read the news lately, that will not be making an appearance.
Yeah.
And you can look that up on your own time.
Or just head over to at Big Netty Cool.
Yeah.
Because
he'll tell you.
He had one of the most comprehensive coverage of that case I have ever heard.
It's made my rewatch real awkward.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It definitely does. But to get back to the animated series, I mean, I think that's a cool way to go about it.
Absolutely.
That you don't need to have everybody come back as live action. And listen, if you can capture the core people involved in it.
And I know what Michael Rosenbaum, who played Lex phenomenally on that show, one of his biggest gripes, and this is the reason he left the show for a couple of seasons, was it was just a pain in the ass and slightly uncomfortable for him to sit in Vancouver because, hey, DC was filming their shows in Vancouver before Arrow, folks. Mm-hmm. Smallville started that. It was a pain in the ass and slightly uncomfortable for Michael Rosenbaum to have to shave his head because he's not naturally bald, folks.
Yeah.
To have to shave his head and then go up to Vancouver for like 6+ months or whatever it was. And Vancouver can get kind of cold at certain times of year.
Yeah.
And be there with the exposed head, so if you weren't okay with it then, he's not going to be cool with it now. This is the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's how he was feeling about that. And you know what? As long as he's committed to do it, and
absolutely.
You get everybody back. Like, listen,
Tom's married. He's got a couple kids. I think he just had another kid. He's a busy dad.
Plus, animated's an easy way to go, and it is successful, too. I mean, look at Invincible, if you want a recent example.
I mean, Christ, look at the animation work that has been done at DC, and not just how good it is. I mean, I know I still got to watch Batman Long Halloween Part 2, or Part 1, I should say, but their animation work is top-notch.
Yes. Facts.
Cannot go wrong with that. Switching to my comic picks for the week, you have Giant Size Amazing Spider-Man Chameleon Conspiracy issue number 1. Listen, Nick Spencer's writing, so I am sold. But it reads, quote, the epic conclusion of the Chameleon Conspiracy. If you thought the end of King's Ransom shook Spider-Man to the core, you better think again, as this ending will level things up. So, yeah, give me that one. It's 42 pages. 42 pages of Nick Spencer goodness. I am sold.
So let me ask you this before you get going, because I was going to mention about my one-shots. It was announced that he is leaving the book.
Yeah.
And we are going to have new creative teams coming out, and they're going back 3 times monthly.
Okay.
So it's going to be borrowing a little bit from the Brand New Day vibe.
Sure.
And Ben Reilly is taking over the book.
Ooh.
What is your thoughts on this?
Give it to me. Give it to me now, but not before Nick Spencer's done, because Nick Spencer is amazing.
Well, I know that they teased the promo art that something happens to Peter, so I'm not going to say, I'm not going to
He's been going through some shit lately if you haven't read the comics.
Yeah, so I'm not going to jump in on that exactly, but as I'm showing Pad the article I'm looking at from IGN, Ben Reilly is back, and I will say, I do like Ben Reilly's suit.
Yeah.
I always thought that was a vastly underrated one to see, and I know this can be part of Free Comic Book Day too, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So there'll be some stuff there to keep taking a look at, and yeah.
I mean, if Ben Reilly takes over the role for a bit, I would understand that. Like I said, if you haven't been reading, Peter's been going through some shit lately, to say the very least. And so much so to the point that a certain former assistant at the Daily Bugle comes back into town for a visit. And she makes a comment that, I haven't really, we used to keep in touch a lot. I haven't heard from you lately. Have you been busy? And then you just get like the panel of Peter, sitting there, and then just in the background, like kind of thought bubble silhouette type things of like everything that's been going on. He's like, yeah, it's been kind of crazy.
It definitely has. I mean, obviously, I know you preach about Spencer's run on Amazing Spider-Man.
Good. And
to see Ben Reilly come back, like, okay, for me in reading the 90s clones, like, this is why I hate clone sagas. When they decided to bring Ben Reilly back after the 70s and, like, just how messy that was, I really hated it. I was not a fan. And then let alone they decided to say, okay, well, Ben Reilly was actually the real Peter Parker this entire time and blah, blah, blah. It was like, no. And just how absolutely messy it was. And I just was not a fan of this comic run. I will go on record and say this. Like, the Clone Saga in the 90s is one of my least favorite things of all comics. I'm not a fan. If it works for you, hey, more power to you.
Yeah.
Me, no. And I was never more happy than to see when he was finally taken out. And then I believe it was Dan Jurgens who took him out, and when he got his run on Spider-Man. So, that all being said, I'm just going in this with a little skepticism because I'm not the big Ben Reilly guy.
Sure.
But I'm willing to give this one a shot. And like I said, I really enjoy the suit, so I can't be too mad about that.
Some more picks for the week. Star Wars Adventures, Weapon of the Jedi, issue number 2. This is written by Jason Fry, who's a phenomenal writer. I cannot commend his stuff highly enough. But this reads, the Rebel Alliance has destroyed the Empire's dreaded Death Star, but the Imperial Starfleet continues hunting the rebels throughout the galaxy. Luke Skywalker now seeks to support the rebellion as an X-Wing fighter. But as he flies with the pilots of the Red Squadron, Luke feels the stirrings of the Force, and this farm boy turned fighter pilot begins to suspect that his destiny lies along a different path. So this is that classic Star Wars, kind of simplistic, not too much crazy going on, back to basics, I guess you could say. But it's also in that kind of unexplored territory of like right after the first movie, but he's still not a full Jedi yet. So I'm definitely excited to read that one. Also out this week, you've got Star Wars The High Republic, issue number 6, written by Kevin Scott, who also had the novel come out this week, which I have to finish the one audiobook I'm listening to before I pick up this one, titled Star Wars The Rising Storm, which is the next book in the High Republic series. So Kevin Scott having a very busy week, but he writes great stuff. Cannot recommend him enough. You've got The United States of Captain America, issue number 1. This reads, the shield has been stolen. No one understands the value of the shield like those who wielded it. So Steve Rogers, Sam Wilson set out on a road trip across America to chase down the thief. But instead, they find captains, everyday people from walks of life who've taken up the mantle of Captain America to defend their communities. And for some reason, the shield thief wants them all dead. Can Sam and Steve get to them first? Christopher Cantwell and Dale Eaglesham lead a can't-miss miniseries to celebrate Captain America's 80th anniversary, joined by a rotating series of creative teams to tell stories of each new captain, starting with Aaron Fisher, the Captain America of the Railways, brought to life by Josh Trujillo and Jan Bazduel. So this is the first issue of a 5-issue miniseries. So I'm definitely excited to check this out. It seems interesting.
Yeah, sign me up, man. This definitely sounds like a cool book.
Yep. And then lastly, but certainly not leastly, Transformers Beast Wars issue number 5. This is a fantastic series if you were a fan of the animated series, and if you weren't, this is definitely a good line to jump in on, because it is literally the series being retold. Now, there's some differences, but at its core, it's still the same story, and it is a fantastic read, and I cannot recommend it enough. I just hate that I have to wait so long for each new issue to come out, because it's like literally the first thing I read when a new issue comes out.
Fair enough. I got to do a correction. So Spider-Man 75, that was the one that came out in 96. That was the end when Ben Reilly got taken out.
Okay.
Howard Mackie and John Romita Jr. were on the book.
Okay.
So, no, but, for Beast Wars, I know you're amped up about that.
Oh, hell yeah.
There's a lot of stuff coming out for Beast Wars. So I guess I got to throw one comic pick in, because I did not realize it's an anniversary. 80 years. Green Arrow.
I saw something about that the other day. I was like, wow, really?
Yeah, so they're doing a Green Arrow 80th anniversary edition. So we've kind of talked about these in the past. So the official title is the Green Arrow 80th anniversary 100-page super spectacular. So that'll be hitting the stores.
How many pages?
100
Yo,
page.
that's a lot.
Yes. So, like I say, I'm showing you the cover right now.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So Green Arrow, Pad, 80 years. Can you believe it?
No, from going from, for me, relative obscurity, because was not featured on Super Friends, and then did not even know, wasn't featured on Batman animated series. Most of my DC stuff came from the cartoons. Wasn't featured on Batman the animated series, wasn't featured on Superman the animated series. Was featured on Justice League Unlimited. He might have made an appearance on Justice League, but I think prior to that, he started showing up on Smallville first, played by Justin Hartley. So good for him. It's definitely a good character, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, kind of crazy, because I never realized it was 80 years of him. And going by the mighty Wikipedia, 1941 is when he debuted More Fun Comics, number 73. And to see where this character has gone from just being a normal archer to some of the more classic runs of the character, because a lot of times we just focus on the Stephen Amell show. And I know that obviously now, since that show blew up and made him into, I don't want to say an A-list character, but it really kind of teeters on that line if you really want to get into how much pop culture impact it had. Arrow has always been kind of a puzzling read.
Yeah.
But he's always been paired up best with Green Lantern. I know Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams' run is definitely one that stands out over the test of time. Still is something to definitely take a look at if you're not too familiar. I always kind of remember him from Mike Grell's Longbow Hunters. So that's another great story that he has with Kevin Smith. Had his notable run with the character as well. So there's been a lot of stuff to work with too. I know that he's definitely been more of a, I don't want to say like characters kind of flown under the radar, but when he's showing up and when he's done right, he's a great read of a character.
So he's not exactly showing up front and center for the big events.
No, I mean,
he's there, but
no, I mean, he's the DC's version of Hawkeye, but he's written a lot better. I think the character is written a lot better when it's in the right hands. Like I said, with Mike Grell's run, I definitely stands out. Kevin Smith definitely did a great job with the character. And like I said, Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams run on when they did Green Lantern, Green Arrow. It's phenomenal stuff. So, and even Ben Piercy's run too. I think it's slept on a lot. But when Oliver Queen is really written well, it's definitely a fun read. So definitely want to go check it out. Hit up your local comic shops. Go see what they have to say about it. Definitely some great books to go pick up. So for my one shots though, got to talk some TV. It was announced for the Dexter Rebirth on Showtime.
that you're chomping at the bit for.
I will say my interest is now more piqued.
Okay.
John Lithgow is going to be returning as the Trinity Killer in some capacity. Now, if you know the show, you can talk to any Dexter fan on the planet, and they will tell you season 4 is the best, and the Trinity Killer was the best. So I don't even like the fact that this even got mentioned. I'm sold. I don't even need to get really into it. If you haven't seen that season, just watch that season, and you'll get everything what you know about Dexter right then and there. And then the seasons after kind of go off the rails, and then the last season is hot garbage in my opinion. But to see that Lithgow is coming back is going to be real crazy.
Yeah.
And it's going to be an interesting thing to watch. So now I'm actually more on board with it. So I'll take that. And then to flip it to HBO Max, we did get the first trailer for The Many Saints of Newark. Now, this is going to be the prequel to The Sopranos. So I will admit, I'm kind of like in this phase where...
Why?
Yeah. Like, I don't like it when we have prequels for no reason.
They've wanted to do something with that franchise for the longest time, though, just because I remember, now, admittedly, never seen the show, but that's because while it was on TV, I didn't have HBO.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get HBO at my parents' house until well after the series had ended, and HBO Max wasn't a thing at that point, so there was no way for me to go, I'm going to go back. I know HBO Go was a thing, but I just didn't really have the urge or it wasn't like trying to catch up on Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It was like, there's a reason to go do it, or Westworld. There's a reason to new episodes. So I've not seen the show. It's on my list. That one of those like I'll get to it at some point, but I just haven't. I know when the series ended and the fans crashed HBO's website. You can look that up.
Mm-hmm.
It happened. That there were talks for a couple of years of movies and spin-off series, and I'm not entirely surprised this is happening. I know they've wanted to do something with Sopranos for the longest time. I'm just surprised it's taken this long.
Well, obviously, with James Gandolfini passing away, that does really hold a lot of plans away, and obviously with due respect, and you should, because he really was this show. And like I said, the story arc of Tony Soprano is just phenomenal. And if you've never seen The Sopranos, seasons 1 and 2 are some of the best TV you'll ever see. Season 3, I don't like as much. Season 4 I thought was very stronger. Season 5 I thought was great. Season 6 kicks off with the greatest season premiere of all time, and then it goes downhill from there. And the ending, a lot to be desired.
Sure.
So you have to kind of take that into perspective, because once that you have the benchmark set, it's tough because you have to hit that each time it goes out.
Yeah.
And I think that for The Sopranos, it just definitely did a lot in a short amount of time. But like I said, season 6 was like, I don't understand how it got that off the rails, in my opinion. And then the ending, I hate the fact is like left in your choice. Like, how do you think it ended?
Yeah.
It's like, no, you need that definitive answer, even though I believe we have that.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, James Gandolfini did such an incredible job and just really delved into this character and really made this must-watch TV. Like I said, the fact that we're going to even just do a prequel, to me, it felt weird because he's not here.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll say because I don't know, you better have like a bunch of the higher up people involved with the show originally involved with this, because then I feel you'll be able to capture kind of that look and feel from the original.
Yeah, David Chase, who wrote The Sopranos, is connected to the project.
Okay.
And Michael Gandolfini is going to be playing young Tony Soprano. So,
all right.
So yeah, like I said, they definitely handled this with care and with the utmost respect.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in this. I'm not like screaming like, oh my God, I want to see this. But I will say the trailer I was impressed with. I definitely thought it was cool. I'm like, if I'm going to be around October 1st when it drops on HBO Max, I will check it out. It's not something that I'm like screaming I want to see, because when you have shows that are that legendary, to see him go back in time and try doing something, it's like, I don't know. I'm such skepticism.
It's kind of like Breaking Bad when they announced they were going to do a prequel to Breaking Bad. It's like, yeah, how? But then it came out and you're like, no, this works.
Yeah. So like I said, Better Call Saul definitely helped ease my expectations about this.
Yeah.
But it's The Sopranos, man. That's like one of my favorite shows of all time. So I have full faith they're going to nail it. It's just like, I don't know what to expect, but I'll definitely check it out at some point. Speaking of trailers, I know we didn't get a chance to touch upon it too much. Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Abomination versus Wong.
Yo.
All I need.
And it is confirmed that is Abomination. Kevin Feige has said as much.
Yeah. I have no idea about the rest of the movie, and I don't even care.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm going to see a cage fight between Wong and Abomination is something I didn't know I needed.
Can we get Bruce Buffer to announce the fight?
If only. But like I said, I've already been sold on Shang-Chi. I've talked about that enough. I know I'll be there opening night when it comes out because I want to see something different, and I don't know what they're going to do for source material, and frankly, I don't care. I'm going to be entertained, and that's what I want to see with this movie. So, but the fact that it happened, that's the only real takeaway from the new footage that I think we need, and we'll definitely talk about that in the upcoming months when that movie is ready to drop. And lastly, we saw, we need to discuss Fast 9.
Had a real good opening weekend.
Break it down for us.
So as we sit here and record, domestically, Fast 9 grossed just about 6.6, just under $6,594,365 on Monday. For the weekend, it grossed over $70 million worldwide, which we should note is not just the $70 million domestic. That it grossed over the weekend is not just a pandemic record, but it is the largest opening weekend domestically since Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker in 2019. And then for a worldwide box office, it is currently sitting at, where is it? Number 4 for the year, behind only Godzilla vs. King Kong, Detective Chinatown 3, and Hi Mom. Fast 9 having grossed worldwide $412,188,530.
You know, I would say like we talk spoilers, but really with this franchise, I mean, where do we go from here, Pat?
Don't do the thing that's rumored for 10 and 11.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's rumors that coming from Justin Lin, the director of Fast 9 and a number of other Fast films, that they might bring back Brian, you know, played by the late Paul Walker. They might bring his character back, to which I say, please don't.
Yeah.
That ending for what you gave that character, given the circumstances that, you know, for those who don't remember, Paul Walker passed away, you know, before they could finish filming, what was it, Fast 7?
I believe so.
You know, the 7th film. So, you know, they delayed it a year. They had to figure out what they were going to do and how they were going to go about the film because, you know, they weren't done filming, you know, so they brought in his brothers and they did some cinema magic so that, you know, they finished with his brothers and you really, honestly, you can't tell, you know, who's actually Paul and who's his brothers. But the ending you gave that character where, and, you know, spoilers, but the movie's however many years old at this point, you know, he goes off into the sunset. He gets out of the business, as they say, you know, as they mentioned in Fast 9. And he goes off and he lives with his wife and his child and he rides off into the sunset. That is the perfect textbook ending for a character that you can possibly have, given the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ruin it by bringing him back. I know that their urge, you know, Justin Lin and Vin Diesel's urge might be to have a Avengers Endgame type moment with the Fast characters that they can, where they're all racing and doing whatever they have to do. But leave Brian out of it. You know, it would just ruin the ending of, you know, Fast 7 where he literally drives off into the sunset.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think that obviously it was an unfortunate tragedy what happened to Paul Walker.
Yeah.
But they wrote him off on in the series very fine.
There have been a number of movies over the years where, for unfortunate reasons, actors or actresses have passed away.
Mm-hmm.
The one I can think of most notably is Heath Ledger. He was in the middle of filming, I forget what the movie's name is, but he was in the middle of filming a movie when he unfortunately passed away, and 3 actors stepped in to fill the role that I saw the movie in college and was like 3/4 of the way through the movie and went, holy fuck, this hasn't been Heath Ledger for quite a while.
Yeah.
You know, there's very few instances in television, movies, and what have you, where an actor or actress dies and you don't get that perfect ending.
Yeah.
You know, what they did with Paul Walker's character Brian is the perfect ending.
I agree. Yeah, and that's the thing, too. It's like you wrote him off very fine, very respectively.
Yeah.
There's nothing you need to do to bring him back. Like, I understand that you want to do it as you're closing out the franchise, but you've already paid enough homage that I don't think that you need to have somebody else try fill in the roles.
No.
And like, I understand the thought is to bring his family involved and really honor him that way, but you've already done that, in my opinion. So I don't want to see that go down.
No.
You've already set up enough that you've said that Fast 10 is going to be 2 parts.
Yep. Filming in 2022, if I read right.
Yeah. So I don't know where we're going to go from here. I mean,
just up the ante on the stunts because that whole bridge jump thing that you see in the trailers, maybe it's because I saw it 1,000 times, but wasn't really that wowed by it.
No, I wasn't really wowed too much by this film. I mean, obviously, it was the whole story.
It was good.
I mean, it's as good as you're going to get with a Fast and Furious movie.
Yeah.
That's the thing about it. You're going to have it be not about the script, it's about the action and about that. And I was right. We got into space.
You got into space. And I got to say, my girlfriend, Liz Bailey, went, who she'd never seen a Fast and Furious movie outside of Hobbs and Shaw because, well, The Rock was in it and she was all in for that. But she'd never seen any of the mainline Fast and Furious films. Even she loved this one. She thought it was good.
It's entertaining. I mean, it's popcorn
Yeah,
fun. I mean, that's
yeah.
the thing. You can't go in with this going like this is gonna be a great script.
And I gotta say, I won't spoil it, but I love how Roman, started breaking the fourth wall a little bit. Started getting a little meta. We seem to be invincible.
Oh yeah, I mean they gotta have some fun with it. I
Yeah.
mean, at this stage, the fact that we now have street racers that are the most elite fighting team in the entire world
That are going into space.
that are going into space. Like, what else do you need to do? I'm sorry, it's done. And the fact, like, for the Fast universe, your bonus scene at the end of the credits, I mean, we're going to do a spinoff there
Yeah.
somehow. So I think there's only one character left that you can bring back, and that's Gal Gadot's.
Yeah. I'll say she is not in hide nor hair from.
Yes. So, I mean, that's the only character that you can bring back. And then just wrap it up however you're going to do it. But you already hit space. Like, I don't know where you go from here. I'm sorry.
Dinosaurs.
It's going to have to be Jurassic Park. Like,
Yeah.
they're going to have to do something weird.
Yeah.
This is going to be time travel. Like, that's...
Could be.
that's
Drive so fast they break the walls of the universe.
no, man, just no. Like I say, I don't know what they got cooked up for Fast 10.
Vin Diesel wants to do a musical.
I know he does, and like I say, this franchise has definitely gone past a lot of expectations I ever had for it.
Yeah.
And like I say, I don't know what they have cooked up for Fast 10 parts 1 and 2, but I'm with you, Pad. I think just let Paul Walker's character stay where he is.
Yeah.
And we don't need to have somebody else try bringing him back.
Like, the only instance I would be okay with bringing him back for the last part of Fast 10 is if there's an end shot of, like, they're at the barbecue or they're overlooking the scenery of Los Angeles, and it's like the music, whatever song they choose for the end of the movie is playing, and they're doing a zoom out and the camera's panning up and then it goes into the sky. I'd be okay with that. But, like, to bring him in for the full movie and do a whole plot, like, oh, hey, I'm coming back to help you guys. No.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm sorry. Like, I could not get on board with that. I think that they've done a great job of honoring his legacy, and I think that that's where we kind of just need to leave his character. We don't need to have somebody fill in for him and try doing it. Even though the thought is with good and his family involved, sure. But in my opinion, no. Just let it go. So that all being said, the music heard on this edition of the ODPH was that a shout out to Robots. They played a show this past Saturday.
Ooh.
First time in 2 years. Absolutely crushed it. One of the best live shows I think I've seen. And one thing I always say about Shout is they get better live every time you see them. So if you see them like 3 times a year, the third time, they're going to be even killing it more. But they definitely tore the place down. It was such a fun night out. I was with Rich and his wife from 3FN, and it was a good time had by all, so definitely can't wait to see more of them. But if I want to hear more about Shout, Pad, where do I go?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Right on. You swing on over to the music section. You check out everything going on with Shout, everything going on with Second Studer, Tom Jolu, Yard Party, Floodlands, Brian Wolf. The list is going on and on. We have more people trying to come on the show, but we are not taking any interviews just yet because we have a couple that we need to get out first, and then we'll kind of open up the playbook and go from there. But definitely go check out all those musicians and support them in any way you can because they're fantastic people. Also, while you're at odphpodcast.com, swing on over to the directory. You can check out links to support Black Lives Matter. You can check out our friends of the show, and you can check out all the amazing pod groups we are in via their Podchaser pages because, frankly, if you're not on Podchaser and you claim you're in a group, you're not in a group. So I'm just saying, you got to get on Podchaser if you're in a group. So definitely shout out to the aPODalypse, shout out to the Inner Circle, and of course, shout out to #607podcast, Rich, Ron, Mike C, and of course, Big Natty Cool. Still on Twitter, Pad.
Good Lord.
He has a lot to say this week.
I'm sure he does.
Yes, involving that certain court case that we were talking about.
Just made it so awkward.
Yes, he definitely has a lot to say about Smallville. So definitely hit him up on Twitter. And definitely for everything that they have going on, swing on over to patreon.com/8122productions. All of that and so much more at odphpodcast.com. That's all I got for this week. So for the one and only Padawan J.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. See you next time.
The darkness has crept up to cover your face, sliding backwards in disguise, and nothing it now.